We're at HASSELL in Sydney, where we've gathered a group of industry leaders from the landscape architecture, building and design community to judge some of the best landscape architecture projects for the year in the Northern Territory and South Australia.
Today reminds me of this great saying, which is design is not only how something looks, but how it works. And here we see landscape with purpose and with meaning and having impact in people's lives.
From playgrounds to aged care, in this episode we'll see how clever landscape design can span the ages.
Leading the judging are Wes Fleming of Fleming Nurseries and Rino Brindisi of Iguzzini Lighting.
The projects are very interesting today. Clever design has added to all of these projects an element of social innovation.
This group of projects is probably the most diverse we've had so far, and it really cuts across a lot of philosophical angles that sometimes we don't understand well. These demonstrate them beautifully.
The approach to this unorthodox landscape design appealed to Jon Hazelwood of HASSELL.
This site is so popular, it must get a real hammering from overuse, and it looks like it's been designed to take those hard knocks.
Landscape architecture is such a broad discipline. Very rarely is it just a walk in the park. So, Kathy, what role have you played in this overall project?
So we were engaged by council to develop a recreation plaza. When people see facilities like this, they think, oh, that's just a skate park. But it's not. It's actually a space that is about providing multiple facilities.
So it's not just aiming at one demographic. At recreation plazas, we're trying to involve more people.
The site that we're actually standing on used to be a road safety school, so that was owned by the state government. And the council wanted to give this public open space back to the community. So this project is just one part of the whole reserve.
Yep.
So it's quite a large space. There's wetlands here, there's trails and tracks and a play space. And even though it's right next to busy road, it's quite tranquil. We purposely worked with these beautiful existing trees on this project. So the result of that is that the skate park actually looks like it's set into the landscape. The Recreation Plaza, whilst it's youth-focused, it's actually a space for everybody. The families coming in with the kids with their scooters and bikes, learning to ride. You've got the grandmas and the grandpas with their grandchildren. It's for everybody.
So, Kathy, you're a skater.
No, not at all, Wes. We were brought into the project to guide the design. So we've worked with expert designers with specialties in designing of skate facilities, so the ramps and the tricks. There was extensive community consultation to work out where the skate facility was going to go, what type of facilities were going to be here and activities.
The recreational plaza is right at the entry to the park. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, that was done deliberately because the busy road offers natural surveillance. So you've got the residents across the road. It's really close to public transport. The people using the park can feel safe. On the weekends, it's just packed full of people, so it becomes a community hub, you know, a vibrant space.
Skate parks have almost become a standard part of public open spaces. The bold move here is putting it right out front. Incorporating the existing landscape has really made it feel a part of the overall reserve. And by doing this, Kathy and her team have introduced more people to a beautiful park, and a beautiful park to more people.
We're judging the top landscape architecture projects for the year in South Australia and the Northern Territory.
So here we are again, another state, another episode. And what we're looking for is our winner to take through to the national best of the best at the end of the series.
Sarah Paget-Kersgaard of the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects was highly impressed with number 5.
This project promotes imaginative play and it's a delightful addition to a day at the zoo with the kids.
This project combines everything I love: kids, plants, play and great design. Amanda, this is fantastic. How did this come about?
Well, it's all really down to the vision of Elaine Banstead, who's the CEO of the zoo, and trying to bring through the vision of the zoo, which is connecting people to nature. So one of the key opportunities here is that we are up and over the zoo, and we can really appreciate some extended views throughout the city. One of the key outcomes is inclusivity for everybody. So the idea that if you were less able-bodied or in a wheelchair, that you could come up the lift and across this elevated walkway and be a part of the experience that everybody is having. This was a custom design exercise that we have then gone through an extensive process of designing play equipment specifically to then hang off these pods so that children and adults can then choose how they want to use the space.
Warwick, there are so many different elements to this garden.
And that's a deliberate response that we wanted to actually reflect the different habitats of the world in one play space. The forests of the world with the existing trees, we have the wide grasslands of the world, and we have the deserts and also the rivers and the aquatic environment.
What I love about the bamboo is they're a play element in themselves, aren't they?
We were looking to create, special spaces that perhaps people with cognitive impairment would want to spend more time in quieter spaces. So there's a broader range. It's not just about running around and the hectic energy of the play space. There are these quiet spots where people can actually spend time and just watch what's going on.
So how's it been received?
The zoo have just been so surprised. It has sort of fostered record attendances and such a spike in membership because families are now wanting to come down here and stay and play longer at the zoo because their children want to keep coming back to the play space.
Been so successful, has the zoo made any future plans?
The children's zoo is now the next step, which is just over behind us.
They're going to build a little children's zoo?
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And with that expansion, the hope is that the pods will carry people over to that zone and even look at perhaps bringing animals up onto the pods as well.
Wow.
So that interaction becomes even more extraordinary.
That would be amazing. Warwick and Amanda have designed an incredible natural play space. It works on many levels. It's educational, it's fun, it's inclusive. Their thoughtful design successfully embodies the zoo's vision of connecting children with nature. The perfect outcome.
Here the designer has been used to ensure that all ages can enjoy that quality of life. It's an opportunity here for older people to create friendships and to experience the outdoors.
With an ageing population, the demand for quality residential aged care is increasing. Gardens like these are becoming increasingly more important in a residential care home.
Definitely. As traditionally we've seen, a lot of aged care facilities have just been leaving people inside. And you can see that people really diminish in getting depressed and they're just not happy. So we were engaged by Resthaven to create a really interactive outdoor space that residents could really enjoy, get the fresh air and hear the birds and just really connect with nature and have a better quality of day-to-day life.
So how is the garden used?
So our role as the designer was to really collaborate with our client and understand what kind of activities and use they really wanted to engage in out here. So we've created a variety of spaces. Some of them are for exercise. So the lawned area here is for Tai Chi and Bocce and just being able to sit and do gentle exercise. We have a spiritual area, which is down behind us, and that's a space to contemplate, just have time out, get away from your neighbours as such. The sensory plants, the colours, the hearing the water, the birds, that kind of thing, which is really great for our soul. And then they have a garden club. And so having opportunities where residents could really engage in gardening and come out and prune the flowers and pull the weeds and that kind of thing. Giving that sense of ownership and individuality where in a residential care home, you quite often don't have your own space.
Yeah.
And residents would have come from a home where they had their backyard.
And it really is such a beautiful garden just to stroll through like this.
Oh, definitely. We've got residents who love walking.
Yeah.
So as the designer, we really wanted to facilitate them, give them nice places to stroll.
And I imagine plant selection is a very big part of the design process.
Yes, because sensory stimulation is really important. So we use the plants as a tool to really tap into our sense of smell, sound, sight. So there's a lot of colour and texture through the garden. You'll see lots of flowers, seasonal change, so the autumn leaves will come out, the spring blossoms come out, and it really shows that time goes on, and quite often time gets lost in a residential care facility. So the garden really shows that time goes on no matter what's happening with your life.
A garden can provide joy and it can evoke memories. More than that, it can provide respite and give independence. And what Tara has achieved here in this small space has had a very large impact.
We're counting down the top landscape architecture projects for the year in the Northern Territory and South Australia. Next up, project number 3.
It's a really successful urban park, a place of many spaces, many different scales, and it's proved to be popular not just as an event space, but also an everyday space.
How do you manage the collision between an old community and a new one and still give everyone what they want? Tim, this area has a strong history and an interesting future.
Yeah, look, it certainly does. I mean, I guess we're standing on the site of the old Clipsal factory, and as you can see around us, there's a lot of construction activity happening. This is really the heart of really what is going to be a whole new urban community. There's a very strong existing community here, so we have taken their aspirations and needs on board. But by the same token, we really need to consider what the future community is going to be. There's going to be upwards of 5,000 more residents living in this precinct, making sure that we're creating spaces that they also feel as though is part of their neighbourhood. The original brief we had really did talk about quite a heavy program for the site, looking at having play space. There was a large pergola that was incorporated, a formal stage area. We took the approach that really, in reality, it's not a huge park, and so what we really need to be looking at doing is maximising the amount of multifunctional space that serves a number of purposes.
Yeah, I've been to some events here, movies in the park in the evening. It was great.
Absolutely, and they also have markets here and so on, and when they've got the markets on, it's absolutely chockers full of people, and so we wanted to make sure our design really takes on board that idea of creating a space that people can come and gather in and be part of. With this area, we really wanted to create quite an intimate garden setting, something that's actually like a place of exploration, particularly for young kids. Meander through these gravel paths. We've got some beautiful scented gardens here. We've sort of looked at using a lot of recycled red brick, which kind of gives that instant sort of link back to the heritage of the site as well, which is really beautiful. I guess on that idea of layering history, you know, we've used a lot of sort of industrial steel, even down to the design of the water feature. There's a disc that we've provided there for shade, which also sort of interprets some of that industrial history of the site, which is really fantastic for us.
One of the things that works really well here is the way that the cafe and the market's really well connected to the park itself.
Yeah, a really important space for us was understanding how that plaza in front of the cafe is going to work. So it's a really interesting connection to have a retail and market space that actually fronts right onto an open space. I mean, it's quite unusual to see in a lot of urban spaces around Australia. So we really see that as being such a great value to this, what makes this park really work.
As the new community moves in here, it's already evident that it's hugely popular. There's so many different pieces, but it's the thought behind the design that allows the jigsaw to work as a whole.
Cobbler Creek, project number 2, I really connected with this project. We saw how total wasteland, unused land, was actually returned to the public through clever landscape design. This goes to the core of the message of the company that I represent here in Australia, Iguzzini Lighting, where social innovation through good design is imperative.
The real strength of this project for me is it's introducing people into a really underutilised parkland. It's been there forever, but nobody ever visits it. Now we're getting 1,500 people a day, and we're really closing the gap for kids, getting closer to nature.
When designing public spaces, we often take risk out. This place puts it back in. So we're in a conservation park here?
Yeah, Cobbler Creek Conservation Park, and it was quite amazing. It's an island of green in the sea of suburbia, and it's amazing that many people didn't know it was here. So I guess it was the state government's idea was to diversify the use and get people in here using the park. Before it was predominantly used by walkers and bushwalkers and was a bit underutilised. It's only recently in the last 3 or 4 years allowed mountain bikers in here, and it's actually been quite a good project that they're now getting on, and we've got mountain bikers joining conservation groups. The intention was to create a destination for families, and that they could come here for half a day, have a barbecue, use the pump track, use the trails, play on the playground, and then potentially use the wider park.
Yeah, and these look cool, the play structures.
So the whole idea behind the playground was based on the local birds of prey. So we had sort of bird's nests and giant eggs.
And you were able to engage local kids as well?
Yeah. So Juna commissioned a Minecraft competition, and so we got a lot of ideas from the local kids when they built what they thought would go in Cobbler Creek.
So all this looks a bit risky to me.
Well, the whole philosophy behind the park was to encourage progression and diversity of use. So we have over near the playground, we've got the kids tracks, balance bikes, then we've got the pump track where you can have scooters, skateboards, BMXs, mountain bikes, whatever, it's for all. And then basically as you move towards these bigger features, you get slightly harder. So, and there's A and B lines on the tracks as well, so that if people choose to bail out on the features, then there's an exit.
And I've never seen anything like it before.
No, it's pretty unique to Australia, and it's lucky we had a very receptive client that they were in the Department of Environment, that they were happy to go with these.
And so has it worked? Did you see many people out here?
Getting over 1,500 people through here a day.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're getting engagement with friends groups and the broader park. They're actually going out into the Cobbler Creek Recreation Park now and using the whole thing, not just this portion of it.
While the bike trails might be the star attraction here, it's actually about a much bigger picture. Ben's design has connected more people with their surroundings, and that's what landscape architecture is all about.
We've reached number 1 in our countdown of the top landscape architecture projects for the year in South Australia and the Northern Territory.
This is a perfect example where we can see clever landscape design and a collaborative effort between the school and the designer gives us a result that really focuses on the needs of the children.
This was a clear winner for me, for South Australia and Northern Territory. The fact that the landscape architect got involved from day one, not just with the garden, but for the overall project, the overall facility, and that doesn't happen enough.
This project deals with it all. A complex brief, a very challenging climate, and students with very specific needs. And so, Carolyn, you've been involved in this project from the very start.
I have very lucky to be involved. It was a fantastic opportunity to design for a special school from scratch, so greenfield site. The end result is we have a school where students have opportunities to be quiet, they can have opportunities to run around, and when those students have those opportunities at recess and lunch times, they're then ready to go back into class to do their work.
So Fiona, this is quite a new project. How did it come about?
So the old Hanbury School was really tight, really small, and there wasn't a lot of space for the children to get outside and express themselves. So everyone just came together to make this school the best thing that it could be for these children. The environment is such a safe and inviting place for these kids to be. And this is the memories of their childhood, so it's perfect.
So this feels like a village common.
That's exactly what it is. The parents, the friends, the carers, the teachers, they need a place for everyone to come together. So you've got the classrooms, then you've got the outdoor classrooms, and then on the outside of that we put the play spaces. So you actually graduate from this kind of family environment into the quieter spaces and then out to the places where you can really go and run amok. It's great fun. We not only colour-coded the buildings, but we colour-coded the playgrounds as well. So if you can't read, then you've got the colour coding to help you to know where you are in this landscape. And all those playgrounds are also designed for different activities. So one is all about climbing, the next one is about balance, the next one is about rotating and spinning. So you can master all of these tasks and then move on to the next one as you go through. But in that safe environment where you know where you are all of the time in the school.
On top of the complexities of designing a school, of course we're in the Northern Territory.
It's certainly got its challenges. It's a little bit hot, But we also get our monsoonal rain, so you've got to design everything to have shade and to have cover everywhere you're going all year round. We've got the trees that are in there, we've got the solid shade. When it's really raining, particularly in a school like this, you've got to get that water away because it's all hitting the ground. So in between all of the buildings is where we take all the stormwater out really, really quickly.
And of course you've got cyclones as well to deal with.
We do. So it underpins a lot of what you do. So you can see behind us, we've got the bamboo planted here against this shade structure. You don't plant trees because the trees could actually fall down and hit that infrastructure. A lot of the native plants that we've put in here are actually used to cyclones. So while they might have had their top stripped out of them, you can see now they're already reshooting and regrowing. They know the weather and they know how to cope with it. So the rest of the planting that we put through everywhere is all native plants, so it's all attracting the birds and the lizards and the skinks. One of the things I really love is the kids can actually pull apart the flowers and they decorate sand and they decorate all sorts of things with it. So they've got that sensory environment of all that texture and everything that they can play with.
The landscape here is driven by humanity. It's having a real impact on people's lives and the children's well-being. And to me, that's what good design is all about.
Next week on Australia by Design Landscape, we look at the best of the best from this series and count down the top 10 landscape architecture projects from across Australia.